Drive past a big green dealership right now and count the combines. Not the tractors, the combines. Class 8 and Class 9 machines, the ones built for corn and beans across the middle of this country, sitting in rows with the headers off and the tires still clean. Some of them have never turned a wheel in a field. A loaded high-horsepower combine today can run north of $800,000 by the time you spec it the way a serious row crop operation needs it. American farmers are looking at that number and at machines that can lock them out and shut themselves off, and they are saying no. Last year, self-propelled combine sales in the United States came in at 3,579 units. That is a decline of 35.6% from the year before. More than a third of the entire market walked away in 12 months. Those machines did not disappear either. They are sitting on a lot somewhere near you, and somebody is paying interest on every single one. Here is the first thing to understand about that number, because it is worse for Deere than the headline suggests. The collapse was not spread evenly. The hardest hits landed on high horsepower equipment, 300-plus horsepower tractors, and the Class 8 and Class 9 combines that dominate Midwest corn and soybean country. That is the most expensive iron in the entire catalog. It is also the highest margin iron in the catalog. When that segment stops moving, a dealership does not lose a third of its unit count. It loses a much larger share of its actual profit. The machines farmers are refusing are the exact machines the dealer needed to sell to keep the lights on. Let me say one thing, and then I will not bring it up again. I spent 11 years behind a dealer parts counter before I went back to farming full-time, and I put everything I learned about how to think through a purchase this size into one manual. It is linked in the description and in the pinned comment. If you want it, it is there. That is all. Now let me show you why a farmer refuses a machine he can clearly afford, because the money is only half of it. I have been on the other side of this. I can tell you exactly what a dealership does when a fall like that shows up in the numbers, and it starts long before anybody in the showroom admits there is a problem. Nobody panics out front. What happens first is the floor plan conversation. A dealership does not own most of the machines on its lot outright. Those units sit on financing. Every month a combine does not sell, the carrying cost eats into a number somebody at a regional office is watching. So the pressure moves. It moves to parts margin. It moves to shop labor rates. It moves to what the service department is expected to bill per technician per day. That pressure ends up in front of the only person left in the chain who cannot pass it to anybody else, you, standing at the counter with a broken chopper drive in the middle of October. But here is what the sticker price does not tell you, and it is the real reason for the refusal. Farmers are not looking at $800,000 and deciding it is too much money. They have paid big numbers for machines before. They are looking at $800,000 for a machine that comes with strings they never used to accept. A machine full of software they are not allowed to fix. A machine that ties them to a consolidated dealer for every repair. A machine that, as we have covered on this channel, the manufacturer itself argues they will never fully own. So the refusal is not really about the price. It is about what the price now buys. $800,000 used to buy you a machine. Now, in the eyes of a lot of operators, it buys a very expensive lease on a machine somebody else still controls. Here is how you know that is what is going on. Farmers did not stop spending money. They moved it. If this were purely about farmers being broke, the used lots would be overflowing with machines nobody could afford to buy. They are not. The used lots are thin. Used combine inventory ran down almost 11 to 12% year over year at one point during this stretch. Dealer supply of row crop tractors in the heart of the range came into this spring down about a quarter from a year earlier. Farmers are still buying. They are just refusing to buy the new machine at the new price with the new strings, and they are putting their money somewhere else instead. Where did it go? Straight into the auction ring and into the older iron. Values on low-hour used machines came back 13 to 18% compared to the previous spring. Retail asking prices on clean late-model row crop tractors moved up around 12%. Demand for pre-emissions machinery, the stuff built before the software and the lockouts, has ramped up 5 times over the past 18 months. according to auction analyst Machinery Pete, who has tracked this market for more than 36 years. Read those facts together. New combine sales down more than a third. Used values firming. Old iron getting bid up hard. That is not a farm economy that ran out of money. That is a farm economy that looked at the new machine, looked at what $800,000 actually buys now, and decided it was not worth it. Here is a detail that should make Moline nervous, because it shows the money is not just sitting still. It is moving to a competitor. While combine sales collapsed, one of Deere's rivals reported that its North American business was actually led by high-horsepower tractor sales in the same stretch. So it is not that farmers stopped buying big iron entirely. Some of them kept buying it. They just did not always buy it green. When the most expensive, highest-margin machines are the ones getting refused at one company, while a competitor reports its growth coming from that exact segment, that is not a farm economy problem alone. That is share moving. That is a farmer standing on a green lot looking at $800,000 with strings attached, then driving to a different lot and writing a check for a machine he can actually control. Now let me take you back inside the dealership, because the refusal does something to the store that most farmers never see. When those high-margin combines stop selling, the floor plan pressure does not sit there quietly. It forces the store to squeeze everywhere else to make up the lost margin. The parts counter gets pushed to hold higher markups. The service department gets pushed to bill more hours per technician. The trade-in desk gets more conservative because the dealer cannot afford to take a risk on your machine when he already has a lot full of new combines nobody is buying. So the farmer who refuses the $800,000 combine and the farmer who just needs a $500 part are connected, whether they know it or not. The refusal at the top of the lot raises the price of everything at the bottom of it. That is the hidden cost of a sales collapse, and it lands on the farmers who stayed, not the ones who walked. Subscribe so more farmers see the real numbers before they sign for one. So what does a farmer actually do when he needs to bring in a crop? The new machine costs $800,000 and it comes with a leash. Refusing the new combine is a decision with its own consequences, and the smart operators are thinking it all the way through instead of walking away angry. First path is the one the market is already voting for, the older machine. There is a reason pre-software iron is getting bid up 5 times over. A machine built before the lockouts is a machine you can fix in your own shop, on your own schedule, without permission, and without a dealer's diagnostic laptop. For a lot of operations, especially the ones that got burned by downtime, a well-kept older combine they control completely is worth more than a new one that can refuse to start. That is not nostalgia. That is a spreadsheet decision about who controls the machine when the weather window is closing. Second path is running the current machine longer. That is exactly what the planter and tillage numbers show farmers doing. While combines were falling off a cliff, used planter values went the other direction, climbing almost 7% in a single month at one point, and more than 13% year over year. Read that against the combine collapse, and the picture sharpens. Farmers did not stop investing in the crop. They kept buying the tools that put the seed in the ground and skipped the expensive machine that takes it back out. That is the decision of an operator who intends to keep farming and figures his current combine has another year or 2 left in it. That is not a man giving up. That is a man refusing to overpay. Third path, and it is real for some, is the switch. When the top of the customer list, the custom harvest crews and the largest row crop farms, starts looking at $800,000 with strings attached, some of them look across the lot at the German machines instead. Custom crews put more separator hours on a machine in 1 year than most farms put on in 4, and they have been moving toward the Claas Lexion. They do not switch for paint. They switch because a machine that stops in September costs them the entire run, and they have decided the machine they can service from a dealer that answers the phone is worth more than the badge on the hood. Now the honest part. There are 3 things in here I need to say plainly, because this is exactly the kind of story that gets oversold. First, this is not a John Deere problem alone. Combined sales fell across the entire industry. Case IH AGCO, everybody. Deere has the largest share of that market, so it absorbs the largest share of the decline. If I let you walk away thinking farmers rejected green specifically and the other brands are booming, I would be selling you something. The whole segment contracted. Deere just has the most to lose in it. Second, and this is the big one, the honest driver is not just anger at the price or the strings. It is farm income. Any version of this story that leaves that out is dishonest. Row crop margins have been squeezed hard. Input costs stayed high, and the base bank rate went from around 3% during the pandemic years to 8.5%. A combine is a financed purchase. When the money to borrow costs that much more, the purchase moves out a year all by itself, before you factor in a single thing about software or lockouts. That interest rate alone explains a large share of this decline. The refusal is real. The anger about the strings is real. But a lot of what looks like refusal is also a farmer who cannot pencil the payment at 8.5% and is waiting for a better year. Both things are true at once. Third, the $800,000 figure is the loaded high-end machine, and I want to be precise about that so nobody in the comments catches me rounding. A base combine is less. A fully specified Class 9 machine for a large operation, with the header and the technology and the options a serious row crop farm actually orders, is what carries a price that high and higher. I am describing the top of the market, the machines the biggest operations buy, because that is the segment where the collapse hit hardest. If you run a smaller machine, your number is lower and your math is different. What I will stand behind is this. More than a third of the combine market vanished in a single year. Farmers who could have bought did not. Those same farmers turned around and bid up used iron and older machines they can actually control. Some of that is the interest rate. Some of it is farm income. But a real and growing piece of it is a decision about what $800,000 should buy. And a lot of American operators have decided it should not buy a machine that somebody else can lock, shut off, or refuse to let them fix.